These things are true. The world is dark.
And we are alive.
These things are true. The world is dark.
And we are alive.
These things are true. The world is dark. Let's do this. Happy Halloween, Internet. So, while I mostly cover traditional media stuff here on the channel, every once in a while I do like to dip into some of my other interests. And since it is the scary season, I thought it would be fun to talk about my favorite tragic horror game. 10 Candles is a tabletop role-playing game that is designed to simulate the feelings of dread that a character goes through in a horror story as they approach their demise. It is, in my opinion, the best game to simulate that horror and dread, and I want to talk about that. Part of it comes from the titular 10 candles that the game is named after. At the beginning of the game, you light 10 candles in an otherwise dark room and begin to tell a horror story in 10 scenes. It's not just a cool name or a piece of set dressing. They play an important part into the actual mechanics that lead into the storytelling. Every time a scene ends, because a player failed their role, you blow out one of the candles, lowering the amount of light in the room, creating a darker environment that you're playing in. I love it. It's so thematic and theatrical and fun. Each scene begins with the players having a number of 10-sided dice equal to the number of candles lit. So the first scene they have 10, second scene 9, etc., etc. Anytime they make an action that could potentially go wrong, they have to roll all those dice. If they roll any number of sixes, they succeed, and if they roll no sixes, they fail. The scene ends, a candle goes out, the game master narrates, bridging these two scenes together. On top of that, any one a player rolls has that dice taken out until the end of the scene, so as the scene progresses, your resources dwindle off, and it makes it harder to succeed. In addition, every scene that goes by, you're losing a dice right from the beginning, and again, dwindling resources, your chances of succeeding get smaller and smaller as the story progresses. I love that. This natural progression as the game goes, making it harder to succeed, is exactly how horror characters exist. They are trying, and as they continue to try and survive, it becomes harder and harder as the odds are stacked against them because of whatever it is that they are up against. It's great. I've run the game a few times, and it's great watching players hesitate to do what they thought of doing because they look at that dice tray and they only see like 2 dice and they're wondering if this is worth potentially failing over. It's also why I am not really a fan of people using something like D&D or other similar games to tell horror stories. Because while a game master can absolutely tell a scary story, any good storyteller can. Even bad storytellers can tell a scary story if they try hard enough. But the idea of having a game system where your character options and hit points and spells and weapons are stacked in your favor is very different than this. Unless you are radically throwing unbalanced encounters at players in Dungeons & Dragons, they should feel confident in the situation. And even if they don't, they should win. You really have to unbalance it for them to fail spectacularly. Any player familiar with D&D should look at their character sheet and know mechanically that they'll be fine. 10 Candles really sets them in a mentality similar to their characters. As the dice pool empties, The players should be as worried about ending the game as the characters are about their survival. The only other game I can really think of that captures the real feeling of horror is Dread. From what I've heard, I've not played it. Apparently you pull pieces out of a Jenga tower every time you try to do something, and if it falls, you die. It has that same sort of design to it where a player is feeling tenser than they would just rolling a single die and seeing if it's pass or fail, because any false move ends in peril. Now, if you've never played 10 Candles and you're watching this video, first of all, thank you. But if you're here watching this video and you're thinking, wow, I gotta pick up this game, it just sounds like something that I want to do, there is a disclaimer I should get to. As I referred to at the beginning, 10 Candles is a tragic horror game. It's how the game markets itself. And that's important because there's a distinct difference between tragic horror and survival horror, and it's something that should be communicated to players beforehand. Tragic horror is a story where everyone dies, or if you want to get crazy with it, become possessed by demonic entities a la Hereditary. That's how this game works, but the players need to know that going in. If they're stepping into a game trying to survive, they themselves as players are trying to make their characters survive, they are playing against the point of the game. The point of the game is to tell a story about characters at the end of their rope. It's about communally sitting down and exploring what these characters are feeling and going through before death. It's really cool, and if you're a storytelling type of group of people, when you get together and play games, it is a lot of fun, but like I said, you gotta communicate this with people ahead of time. If you don't, you could end up in a situation where it's players versus game master, and that's not the point of this. The point is communal storytelling, above and beyond some other games I've played before. It's fantastic. Something else I love about the game is its flexibility. When you read the rules of the game and look at the small adventure prompts that exist at the back of the book, they are about the end of the world. Very specifically, the world is dark, and the players are supposed to be survivors trying to accomplish something that will help humanity defeat them. Some mysterious entity that the game master creates for the scenario that is hunting humans, or humanity, or it's a plague. It can be a lot of things. And that's really cool. I've never played the game that way. And that's what I'm saying why I like this game so much, is it understands horror so well that for someone like me who is a big fan of film and horror stories outside of the specific genre of what the game is trying to tell, the game works for that. I've run 10 Candles a few times. I've done a House of a Thousand Corpses style scenario. And I've also done one inspired by the most recent Paranormal Activity movie, which I don't think was a great movie, but really worked well to tell an interesting story at a table with some friends. It was a lot of fun. And that's what I'm getting at, is you don't have to adhere specifically to the structure that the game lays out, as long as you are following the basic principles of the dice rolls and the candles going out, which I haven't even gotten to yet. But the players have character traits that are on little index cards. As the game goes on, they can expend those character traits to attempt to reroll the ones that they rolled. And when they do so, you actually take that trait and you physically burn the card. Again, this game is so theatrical, it's wonderful. If you're that kind of theater nerd, you have to check it out. But yeah, the game is a fantastic way to tell a horror story with a group of people. I love it. It's so fun. Some of the members of the online gaming group I play with, shout out Steve, want to play 10 Candles together, but I haven't quite figured out how to replicate that feeling, because the effect of sitting at a table with people, the actual candles being lit and going out, I can't imagine replicating that where people are in different parts of the world playing online. Though I'm up for suggestions. If you watching have done that, please let me know, because we're looking for a solution. And if you're the kind of person who's into actual plays, either to learn how to play a game, to just get the vibe of it before you buy it, or just because you consume it as entertainment like I do have some recommendations for 10 Candles. First and foremost, Hyper RPG's 10 Candles series is the best. It takes a lot of liberties with the game system as they are an interactive channel, but it really shows off the dwindling candle aspect of it, as well as how flexible it is outside of the base storytelling parameters that the book sets forth. It's an anthology series where each story eventually interconnects with it themselves, but it's 10 one-shots essentially. It's a lot of fun. Or if you're looking for a more traditional version of the game, you can absolutely check out the one played on Geek and Sundry. They did a few, I believe, and it's more in tune with how the game is played as written. I'll leave links to playlists for both in the description so you can check them out if you're interested. If you have played the game, let me know in the comments. I'm a big fan, obviously I made a whole video about it. But that's it for me. Happy spooky season. If you want to check out more of the content I make here on the channel, I've got 2 videos up for you right here. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out a small channel like this. I've got a new video out in the next couple of weeks. And until then, have a good one.